Guys are having a great Friday afternoon, great morning, or great evening wherever you are in the world. And today's video, I wanted to talk on how to start marathon running. I don't know where you're currently at in your running career. I started running myself, marathon running in 2002. Never envisioned running this particular distance. I was a miler and 2 miler in high school, ran the 5,000 in college, but I never envisioned seeing myself running a marathon. I really think in terms of anyone that's asking the question of how to start marathon running, I think you need to just know that it's a learning curve. It does take time to master this distance. It's a big challenge. If you've already run a 5K or a half marathon or 10K, there's no reason why you can't run a marathon successfully. And it's really it's a big time mental event. You really have to learn how to pace yourself, and I think that you can master the event, but it does take time. I've made a lot of mistakes in my own career, over the years running the marathon. Ran The first time I ever ran it was at the 2002 New York City Marathon. We were a part of a lung cancer research team, Armed Forces team, so we started in last place, which at that time was 32,189th place, and Chase Manhattan Bank was paying, or basically donating $1 for every runner that we had passed. So I finished as the team's top finisher in 257th place overall. We weren't allowed to start the race until every runner had crossed the start line. So it was quite a task to, run through oceans of people, but it was a great experience. And that kind of catapulted me to start running marathons. And I ended up running a personal best 2 hours, 19 minutes, and 35 seconds at the 2007 California International Marathon. So have a lot of background with the sport, a little bit over 28 years of experience. So I understand your question of how to start marathon running. I understand that you may have a lot of questions and unknowns of how to run the event. I really think it's important to continue to build your base, and to whatever race time you're looking at, whatever particular pace you're looking at to run over the 42.2 kilometers or 26.2 miles, you need to continue to spend a little bit of time each week running at that pace or faster than that pace. Get on the track and start doing, over time, allow yourself time to adapt to the hard anaerobic workouts that you're doing, but spend some time training at your 5K to 10K race pace. Start running your long runs at a faster pace, preferably around 85% of your maximum heart rate. I really think that's a big way to really get to a point where you can run the marathon distance effectively, and to be able to make those changes in the race against your competition. This was me at I think this was at the 2010 or 2009. No, it was the 2009 Army 10 miler. I just finished my Army officer candidate school at Fort Benning, and this is me right here with some of my teammates. This is Dan Brown, two-time Olympian, who was a member of the Army World Class Athlete Program with me. A couple other runners. This guy was a guy named Liam Collins, Special Forces officer, 53-minute 10-miler. This guy, I cannot remember his name, but he was around a 55, 54-minute 10-miler. So this was a great experience for me, and I think when you're planning on running a marathon, you want to experiment with those other distances. Get out there and run, 5K, 10K, do 10-mile races, half marathon races, but you don't necessarily have to run the shorter races to run a marathon and finish a marathon successfully. You can go out and you can run a marathon, but you just have to really be cognizant of the paces that you're running at that, for that particular distance. You don't want to go out too fast, especially in the marathon distance, because it's such a long race. So you want to pay attention to improving your hydration practices in training. You want to make sure that you're ingesting enough calories and enough fluid in the marathon distance especially. A big mistake that I made over the years trying to master this distance was neglecting that piece. I would sip Dixie cups. I would grab a couple Dixie cups in a race, but I was just sipping. I was not drinking in the marathon. And it wasn't until I mastered that component of marathon running that I ended up breaking the 2-hour, 20-minute marathon barrier. I was drinking in that race, and other marathons that I've run as well. You know, you got to factor in a lot of things. You're going to be running marathons maybe in the heat, even in cold weather. You still need to hydrate well over this distance, because once you know your muscles and your body as a whole are, they're very reliant on those calories. They need those calories and proper fluid over this distance to properly function correctly. So, how to start marathon running? Really, you already have the fact that you're asking this question already tells me that you're going to be successful over this distance. But also know that getting out there and running those shorter races will still help you to effectively know what you're going to handle in the marathon distance, because you've already got out in training and you've done your long runs. You've prepared well that way. You've gotten on the track. You've spent some time training at closer to your 3K to 10K race pace. That's going to make marathon race pace feel a lot more in control. You don't want to be taxed and fatigued in the marathon distance in the first the first 10 miles of the race. I've made that mistake as well. So for me, having run 2:19 for the marathon distance, a lot of people say, well, that's pretty strong time. But just know that I've experienced a lot of setbacks and failures along the way, just like any other athlete. The first time I ran the mile in high school, I ran it in 5:30. First time I ran the 2 mile I ran it in 11:30. So by the time I graduated from high school, I ended up with a personal best of 4:25 at the mile. So I dropped a little over a minute off my mile time, and ended up running 9:46 for the 2 mile in high school. So ended up going to college and competing in cross country and running road races and 5Ks on the track. But like I said, I never really envisioned running the marathon distance. I kind of just got out there and did it. And that's what you have to do. In terms of how to start marathon running, you're never going to know what you're capable of doing over this distance unless you get out there and you try and you see what you're capable of doing. And be willing to make mistakes. Note that this particular event is not something you're going to master overnight. It's going to take years, many months to years to get to a point where you're going to run a personal best over the marathon distance. And like I said, I've made mistakes and I've had a lot of successes too in running middle to long distance races. It did take many years to get to a point where I could break the 2:20 marathon barrier, but I just want to encourage you to continue to work on your weaknesses as well as your strengths. If you're weak on overall leg speed, you need to continue to do those strides every other day during your easy runs. Continue to get on the track, do those mile repeats, do the 2 mile repeats, do repeat Ks, and allow periodization, allow your progression of your fitness and your anaerobic fitness to take shape. It usually takes at least 3 weeks or 21 days for your body to adapt to any stress load that you're placing on it. So don't get discouraged, especially when preparing for a marathon or any other race. Do not get discouraged. It takes time. Every athlete, regardless if you're a total beginner or you're an elite level athlete, all of us have experienced setbacks with middle to long distance running. It's just part of the process. And if you don't give up, if you don't get discouraged, and you stay motivated and driven, and you continue to put in those miles, and you continue to mix up running easy, running moderate efforts, and running very, very hard. Those VO2 max workouts, like I talk about in other videos and on RunDreamAchieve.com. You continue to implement those types of strategies, you're going to be able to run well over the marathon distance. You have to have you spend some time training at different intensities. That's going to really help you out over the marathon distance. Do not neglect running at paces that are a little bit more that are going to challenge you. You don't want to just run easy every single day. You don't want to run easy just every weekend for your long runs. You want to get uncomfortable, get out of your comfort zone, and be willing to spend a little bit more time training at a higher heart rate, at a higher percentage of your maximum heart rate for longer periods of time during your long runs. I always emphasize in my training programs as well as my running courses on RunDreamAchieve.com to alternate running one weekend at a much more challenging effort, coupled with a little bit of running, with recovery along with that harder long run, followed the next week by a very relaxed, easy long run so you can recover. You definitely want to be able to recover from these hard anaerobic efforts or higher paced aerobic efforts so that you can get to the marathon distance and run it competitively and run it up to your expectations and get to a point where you're going to exceed your expectations. So that's kind of a brief overview of what I think of what it takes of how to start marathon running. You just have to get out and experience it for yourself, learn from the mistakes that you made in your first marathon, and continue to work on your strengths. And you're gonna run a great time. There are numerous marathons around the world that I definitely recommend running. Rotterdam is a great one. New York City, very challenging, but definitely one to consider. Chicago is great. Columbus is super fast. Paris is fast. There are marathons all over the world, but you definitely want to pick a race. If you're not really a hot weather runner, pick a marathon that's more cooler temperatures. So my top recommendations would be the Indianapolis Monumental Marathon. I ran that in 2011 in 2:26:42. Finished 5th place. That was my second fastest time ever, and I ran the 2:19:35 at the California International Marathon, which takes place in December. So that's another great cold weather marathon that's available to you. So definitely check those races out. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment below this video. If you haven't yet subscribed, click on the red subscribe button and hit the bell icon so when I make new videos, you'll be notified. And hope you guys have a great weekend, and wish you guys all the best in your marathon training and in your 5K to up to the marathon race preparation. So I will talk to you guys all in the next video, and have a great day.